Hi everyone. Welcome to the YJA Mid-Atlantic Sustainability Panel. We're hosting this in attempting to understand the intersection between SEVA and sustainability. My name is Pia, and I'll be moderating this panel and session today. Okay, so for our first speaker, I want to introduce Anya Bansal. Anya is an undergraduate student at Carnegie Mellon University, passionate about environmental advocacy. She hosts the podcast Icebreaker, educating people about environmental issues, and serves on Earth Echo International's Youth Leadership Council. Anya has worked as the water coordinator for the New Jersey Student Sustainability Coalition, interned with the Environmental Education Fund, and research combines sewer overflows. Anya firmly believes in the youth's power and that we all have the power to create a greener world for our future. So you'll be hearing from her today, as well as Meraki Tamrat, who is our second guest speaker. Meraki is an undergraduate student at Columbia University pursuing a degree in public health as part of the Clue Scholars Program. She serves on Earth Echo's International's Youth Leadership Council, where she works with the Ocean Justice Forum and attends youth summits. Meraki is an advocate for ocean and environmental policies, having attended the White House Summit on Ocean Justice and the Ocean Race Summit at the UN. Additionally, she champions reproductive rights and has worked with Planned Parenthood and conducted research on maternal health care with the University of Michigan. All right.
Okay, so now moving on, since this is a SEVA event, we're gonna just go ahead and explain to everyone what SEVA is. So essentially what SEVA is doing a selfless act without expecting anything in return. So like it would be like donating to a charity, I don't know, like donating food, giving money to homeless people, just any nice service that you could do for someone else. So does anyone have any moments in their lives like recently or ever where they have done SEVA or have received SEVA as well? If anyone would like to share.
Yeah, I can hop in. So I think one thing for like me recently was like a lot of my friends were busy with finals, things like that. I think because of that, because of that, I think like people like some of my friends still get like eat or something like that, and like some like I'll have their food and I'll just talk about that times. I think it's like a very like minimal way of describing it, but I guess small I should say though.
Yeah, it's definitely great no matter how small, as long as you're helping someone out, that's definitely counts as SEVA. So we can move to the next slide now. Or we'll move to the questions for the panel.
Okay. Is there another slide, or do you just want to do questions from here?
Yeah, we can just do questions if you want to start first.
Yeah, sure. So again, my name is Pia, and I know Meraki and Anya personally. I serve on Earth Echo's Youth Leadership Council alongside them. So was just hoping for them to share a little bit about their experiences working in the sustainability field. So the first question is for both of you, but we can start with whoever would like to hop in, is how have your experiences with grassroots advocacy in the climate space made a positive impact on the community?
Okay, I'll hop in first. So me personally, a lot of local youth organizations, like Pia mentioned before, that I've worked with, they focus primarily on youth-led activism locally. So I've worked on campaigning for political programs with the Environmental Education Fund, and that's very locally based. Like I did it in my town and the town next over. Similarly with like broader based grassroots coalition, similarly, we worked with focusing on educating the public about New Jersey, because I'm from New Jersey, so New Jersey related issues and stuff like that. So a lot of the grassroots funding is grassroots coalitions and groups I've worked with is very locally based. And so a lot of our efforts are very locally conducted, and stuff we do is like beach cleanups, educating the public, And yeah, if that answers your question.
Yeah, that's perfect. Meraki.
Yeah, so similar to Anya, a lot of the work that I did was local. I lived in Ann Arbor, Michigan for 2 years, and so the whole reason why I got interested in environmental advocacy was because of the water crisis in Flint, Michigan. And a lot of the work that I did was just looking at how that seeped over into where I lived. And with a lot of grassroots advocacy, especially in local smaller communities, I think it's really important to kind of just get to know the people around you and get to know how to help. I think a lot of the times when I was doing work in grassroots advocacy, whether it be in Ann Arbor, like the greater Michigan area, a lot of the youth that I spoke to kind of just felt like they were being talked at rather than being listened to. And so it's really important to just kind of give them like the platform to have their questions answered or to ask questions without it feeling more of like a, I guess, lecture when talking about things that they're facing in their local communities.
Yeah, now this is next question. This one's kind of directed more to Meraki, but what are some intersections you have noticed between environmental activism and maternal health?
Yeah, so I think it's very obvious that climate change affects everyone and it affects the way that your body will react to different things. When I was doing my research on maternal health care, I looked at pregnant women roughly aged between the ages of 30 and 40 years old. And we saw that people who lived in areas that were more affected by pollution or extreme weather events, for example, would have that kind of reflect in the health of not only the mothers, but also their children, their newborn babies. And so it's especially for people who live in areas such as Detroit, which is heavily populated, it's very present within future generations how this change in climate change has led to a change in like their health and also the quality of healthcare that they'll get in hospitals that might be overrun with too many patients due to several different sicknesses and illnesses that are caused by the challenges that we face in the environment. The whole thing is very intertwined and it's all intersected. And so one affects the other.
Yeah, thank you for I think I was also recently I came across a study where it was like microplastics were being found in breast milk, which just goes to show that like people's lives are already being impacted by the climate crisis before they even step foot in this world or even as they're babies. The next question that um both of you we would appreciate if you could answer are what are some sustainability or environmental volunteering and service ideas you recommend for someone just getting started? So someone that doesn't have a lot of experience, but really wants to work at the intersection of at these two spaces.
I think like honestly, the first step would be getting locally involved, seeing what local things you can work on, finding local youth organizations or finding local beach cleanups that you can work with. There are definitely websites. Use social media to help you find them. Just do a quick online search of beach cleanups near me, especially now that it's summertime, there's probably more going on. Um, yeah, honestly, get involved locally first. Figure out what your niche is, like what you're interested in. Because climate change and environmental advocacy is a big, big field, and it can kind of feel like you're getting swept up in all of these different movements. But I think it can help to also focus your advocacy work on one specific thing so that you can really concentrate your time and effort. And yeah, go from there. So start small and then move big.
Yeah, I definitely say begin locally if possible. I think especially at the high school level, if you can join a club, if your school offers some sort of environmental club. If not, there's so many ways to get involved online. I started off just by I randomly stumbled across Earth Echo's website when I was just Googling like ways to get involved with helping reducing the impacts of climate change. And so whether it's something online or in person, just kind of educate yourself first, I'd say, because as Anya said, it's a very, very big field. And then after kind of figuring out how you can help, there's many things you could do. You could get like a water testing kit, you could pick up trash, do a beach cleanup, etc. And so I think just figuring out where to start would be a good first step. And then talk to people if you know anyone who's kind of doing something that you'd want to be a part of as well. I think that's a really good way to get yourself into the whole sphere of it all.
Yeah, speaking of water testing kits, that's actually how I got involved. So for the first 2 years, pretty much all I did was go to local water bodies have fun testing water. I got to explore a lot of different places and report those results to a database. And for a while, that was all it was. But I think those experiences and like meeting different people who were very like specifically involved in the water testing and water quality field actually was better for me because it was very direct. It wasn't very broad. And then from there, I had the avenue to meet a lot of different people in various sectors. So there's nothing wrong with starting really locally. And honestly, like it can be the better option sometimes.
Yeah, and yeah, it's great. Like any small work just still counts, to always keep that up. And both of you guys have a big background or extensive background in the environmental activism space. So what kind of motivated you to become involved with sustainability?
Okay. Sorry about that. So for me personally, it started from a pretty young age. My mom especially was very like mindful about waste. Um, went to a lot of aquariums and beach cleanups as a young kid. And then in middle school, I did like a fundraiser for victims of Hurricane Katrina, and that was what really kickstarted it. So from there, I've just been always looking into ways to get involved. And then I found online webinars. That's how I got started. So I first learned about the subject through like webinars and then got involved with local organizations when I moved up. Yeah.
For me, it started when I moved to Michigan, because Michigan's surrounded by the Great Lakes, and I'd never really lived next to a body of water before living in Michigan, and so it started off with just like plastic pollution and learning more about that, and then kind of moving on to doing some research. I also did a water testing kit with the water quality in my house, and then areas that were closer to Flint, and so that kind of led me to looking at the Flint water crisis in more detail. And then from there, similar to Anya, I joined a bunch of webinars, found Earth Echo, and then that was sort of where I really got involved with environmental advocacy. But before that, it had been little things like watching documentaries on Netflix or like seeing those pictures of climate change and being like, whoa, this is definitely a serious issue, and I want to see if there's any way that I can get involved.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more with that. We just wanted to ask because both of you already have sustainable or a significant amount of work under your belt. Looking forward, what are some things that you are currently working on, but also projects at the intersection of this field or solely in this field that you hope to pursue in the future?
Yeah, I can go this time around. I just started an internship at a global health strategies firm in New York City. And so we're looking at more of the effects of climate change and just individuals, not just maternal health care. And so I think in the future, I definitely do want to continue looking at how the two are related and then also ways in which individuals can make that change. Because I think a lot of the time when there are bigger systemic issues, people feel like they themselves can't really make a difference. But even if it's little things like changing your diet, it's shown that people can make changes, and whether that promote their healthcare and the environment or both, it can definitely happen. And so I want to look more into that and do some more research-based stuff in that field.
Yeah, and then for me, I'm currently still part of Earth Echo. I will say since joining university, a lot of my involvement has dwindled because we don't have too many environmental or sustainability related campaigns going on. But I recently got involved with research that is working on using machine learning and statistics to kind of figure out pollution in waterways and figure out ways to mitigate that and use that in policy. It's still in the early stages, but yeah.
Yeah, no, that sounds super cool and like super great that you're working on a machine like that. Since environmentalism has been such a big part of your life, how has your experience with advocacy instilled personal growth and reflection?
That's a great question. I think for me, it's taught me to be a lot more mindful about the way I view my surroundings, just realizing that this is how much waste or product it took to create like a piece of clothing, or this is why, like, it's taught me to see the effects of my actions, and see the effects of what I consume and how it like what it has on places, the effects it has on places that I can't see or I've never been to. So it's just really opened up my perspective to different outlooks that I would not have because I come from a pretty privileged background, and yeah.
Yeah, I think adding on to what Anya said, it also just makes you realize just how big the field is of just climate advocacy, environmental advocacy. I think when I think of how I can get involved, my first thought is probably very different from someone who lives next to a coast or someone who lives on an island. And so it really broadens your perspective, as Anya said. And I think it makes you rethink a lot of actions, but then also it's just really like in many ways like inspiring, and I'm in awe of just how much we as humans can do. And obviously, in a lot of times, we don't really treat our planet the way that we should, but also just looking at the efforts that people have put in to kind of preserve what we have left has been really inspiring.
Yeah, awesome. I think I definitely agree with both of you on all of those points. Now we kind of wanted to transition out of us just throwing questions at both of you. I obviously have the privilege of knowing Anya and Meraki very well outside of YJA, but we wanted to open it up to the participants if they had any questions about their work in this field, sustainability in general, literally, to be honest, anything about this topic. So the floor is open for any questions.
Yeah, so I can start with the question as well. What would you say? I guess kind of hearing about some of your experiences. One thing for sure definitely seems like the work seems very rewarding. So knowing that you've kind of been able to do many of these internships, different programs, what do you think has kind of been the most rewarding aspect? I'm sure there's probably a ton. So if you had to kind of pick one, what would you would be the most rewarding aspect of the work that you've done so far?
It sounds a bit generic, but I just say like all the people you get to meet along the way. Like meeting Pia and Anya. I met Anya 2 years ago, met Pia last year, and it feels like I've known these people for so long. And it's just so amazing to like be united by this one thing that you really care about. And knowing that you kind of make friends wherever. Like through Earth Echo, I met one of my best friends from Malaysia, and her and I talk like every single week. We I don't think would have met through, under any other circumstances, and so it's really great to just be able to meet people from all over, and then obviously talk about what you care about, but also just make friends, and it's been super fun.
Yeah, I would say like along the same lines, the people that you meet through advocacy are some of the they're some of the coolest people I've ever met. Like they've done some pretty amazing things. Yeah. Also, I think seeing the impact that you're like making in real time, um, especially if you're working with local organizations, it's really cool to see like that your advocacy and your efforts can lead to policy being implemented or lead to other youth being inspired to join the movement.
I also just think like even if this is not what you want to study or like if this is not like your primary thing, I think on Earth Echoes Council, like we have so many people studying all different kinds of things. We have people studying in the tech field, computer science. We have people studying in the humanities, in policy spaces. But I think what's really cool is like we all bring our own approach to this work. And so even for anybody who's trying to get involved, it doesn't really matter what your background is because the nice thing about sustainability is that it has an intersection with almost any field. So there's always a way to get involved and really forge your own path because the work that all of us do on the council is so different from one another, but we all make positive impact. Are there any other questions from anybody? All right, if there's no other questions, we sort of have two options now. We were either going to do like a pitch competition about thinking about you guys all heard how Anya and Meraki are involved, but we wanted to turn it across to all the participants and have them brainstorm ways that they can get involved. But because we only have a couple folks here, we could also just have a general discussion. So does anybody have a preference for what they want? Okay, if there's no preference, maybe we could just do a discussion and like even people who are already involved, maybe we could just go around the room and like say one thing that we hope or we got out of this or that we hope to implement in our lives at the intersection of SEVA and sustainability. Okay, does anybody want to go? Or I can start. Okay, I'll start. One thing I hope to do that I did, but I kind of haven't been doing as much, is I know throughout the summer I have to like go to a lot of events, go to parties, and I use a lot of plastic and use and throw utensils. And I just hope that I can start bringing my own utensils to these events, and then cumulatively across over the course of the summer, I think make a big impact, but also just network with more people in this field, attend more climate gatherings and just get to know more amazing people like Anya and Rocky. So those are my two things that I hope to do.
Yeah, no, I can say something else. Yeah, let's say I agree with like the usage of plastic. Like for me, especially something I can like reduce my usage of. Is a lot of times like if I'm like too lazy to do dishes, I just end up using like plastic utensils because I don't want to do the dishes. So that's something I can really do to help eliminate waste and like just other like general things like cut down on the use of water, like not leave like the tap running, shorter showers, just to kind of eliminate water usage as well.
I think I probably use a ton of like plastic bags as well, just like if I'm like packing my lunch or if I'm just like taking something one place another, I'll just end up throwing them into like, plastic bags. It just seems like the most convenient, but probably replacing that with like a reusable bag definitely be a lot more environmentally friendly.
I'm in the car, but I would say like a big thing for me is like trying to explore more vegan options. I think there's like a lot of potential with being more sustainable through veganism. And so like being more open to it and like opting for vegan alternatives instead of like going for the cheese and the dairy.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. A lot of the discussion that happened today, I feel like has allowed me to think to be more conscious of like the decisions I make, especially food wise. And yeah, I think for me it would be going to more vegan alternatives.
I think is Jainam there.
You can like put it in the chat, Jaina, if that works or if that's accessible to you. But Anya and Rocky, if you want to share, feel free to also.
Yeah, I think for me, one thing that I've noticed when moving to New York City was just how much I relied on like my car when I lived in Michigan. And so I think finding different ways of transportation, um, and just reducing like carbon emissions is something that I would want to work on once I'm back in Michigan or just moving forward.
I would say I think I need to like reduce some of my consumption. I've low-key been on a shopping kick recently and I need to stop. So reducing my consumption and being mindful about what I need versus what I want is always important.
Okay, awesome. Jaina, if you want to hop in the chat anytime and like share your 2 cents, that'd be really cool. But other than that, we don't have any more questions, at least from the panels. If anybody has for the panelists from our side, if anybody has any final questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. But yeah, just wanted to thank both of you for doing this today. We're really, really grateful that you were able to share your perspectives. And we hope for all the panelists that you guys were able to take something, some really good insights out of this and we'll definitely try to implement sustainability in your lives, especially in your daily lives moving forward. So yeah, thank you so much, Anya and Maraki. Okay, and then we also do have a pledge for anybody who is interested in signing it. I'll be totally honest, like I am not the first person to sign pledges because I think it's really important that you not only sign pledges, but you also are held accountable for what you say you're going to do. So we like try to modify this pledge a little bit. So after you sign this pledge, we really encourage you to actually go and implement what you say you're going to do in your life. So whether that be gardening, using less plastic, trying more vegan options, any of the things that you guys listed today. And then if you send us a picture of you doing something sustainable, we will be sure to feature you on the YJ Instagram. And Rickov, do you want to put okay, there is the link to um, the pledge. We really appreciate if everybody could sign and then be sure to send us pictures and we will feature you. But yeah, like once you guys do that, thank you so much for coming. And then if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. And then if you have any questions, further questions for Anya and Meraki, you can reach out to me and I will get you in touch with them. Yeah, thank you everybody for coming.
Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
thank you for joining.
Thank you guys.